some perspective on the late, great Jim Donovan. NBC Sports Mike Tirico joining us on the Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea Hotline. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you even more so for what you and Chris and the team did last night of mentioning Jim. I cannot, longtime NBC employee, obviously, Jim was, and I cannot imagine what that meant to his family and what it means to all of us. So thank you, sir.
Well, thanks, pal. It's always good to be with you all. Sorry it is with this as the undertone to it. And first and foremost, my personal condolences. Jim's family. It was so touching to see the outpouring, fans, organization, you guys in the booth. That was just, I teared up watching that video when the Browns posted it this morning. Just our thoughts. What a great guy. And we got the news Saturday during our production meeting. And late Saturday night, Sunday morning, I mentioned to our producer Rob Hyland, Jim is one of family because he called games at NBC for better part of a decade on and off, and the natural tie in addition to that of being Chris's first partner in the booth, and our team got the right shots and got the right pictures, and it was our honor and pleasure to just let the nation know just what so many of you in Northeast Ohio and people around football think of Jim and the impact that he had. And I'm so glad that Chris was able to just kind of put that personal touch on it, being the first guy to do a game next to Chris. And Chris has done hundreds and hundreds of games, and that first partner is always so special because he could walk away and have a terrible experience and go, I don't need to do this. But Jim was the right guy for so many people to do that with. And so glad we're able to spend a brief second to remember Jim at this time.
Mike, Nathan Zegura here. Thank you so much for that and for your words right there. And, as somebody who's done NFL, you've done Olympics, you've done all the major sports, you've done all these huge things. And Jim, some people in this area only know him as, he was a Browns guy. He's done all those things too, World Cups, all of it.
Yep.
How do you bring it, and what did you see from Jim in all those various roles, that kind of that natural passion for so many things in terms of just telling the story of these great games, regardless of what sport it is?
Yeah, there's a couple of different categories here when you get to cover sports. You get to either work at the national level, and we're blessed to do that, and then sometimes you get to call a team and be the voice of a team. And there's a different connection there. It is the same job, theoretically. And it's not just do you go crazy, get wild when a touchdown scored for your team, but you got to feel the franchise. And you got to feel their heartbreak, their disappointment. And very often, this is talked about with the presidents of the United States very often. Like sometimes you become the comforter in chief. Like, for a lot of fans, and Browns fans have needed that for many years here. You need that person who understands, who gets it, who gets you. And Jim did that, and not only did he have the ability to do that, but also on a national level when he was doing the national stuff back earlier in his career, it was the guy who showed up on TV and just had that very trusted voice, face, and approach to the game with an energy and kind of a juice and a lilt in his voice. Mm-hmm. That made you feel like the guy who was talking about the game was thrilled to be there. It didn't matter the hotel, the travel, the 7-day work week, whatever it was. Jim was just always happy to be there describing sports and sharing what he saw and observed with you at home. That's not a quality that you can go to school and learn. That's an innate personality trait that you're born with, that you have, that you practice on a daily basis. You guys lived it far more than I did. My times around Jim, too brief for me, but over the years, whether it was the Browns doing a Monday night game or coming to Cleveland for something else, see Jim when the Cavs had their role and I was living, in the arena downtown in Cleveland, whatever its name was at that point. There was just a warmth and love of sports that Jim had that was genuine, that you got. And I think anybody who listened to Jim call any game, if you're a Browns fan or not, you're like, this guy loves what he does. And I think that came through when he did the national stuff and, of course, in spades with his work, not just with the Browns, but in the local TV market as well.
When you said you found out in the production meeting Saturday, you're getting ready for your game Sunday night, and By the way, you guys ended up having a pretty entertaining game by the end of it there.
Yeah.
When you saw the result, were you kind of following? But when you saw that the Browns beat the Ravens, which was incredibly improbable, I would imagine, to everybody outside of us who knew Jim, and we're just like, they have to win. There's just no other way. What was kind of your reaction to the Browns actually getting that win, knowing the emotion and what he meant to everybody?
I'll tell you two stupid things here that are just really unique to me, and this is not a time or day about me, but when I heard the news Saturday afternoon, the first thing I did, we kind of mentioned it and just talked about it and just took our moment to just share a little thought about Jim. And seeing Jim a couple of years ago when we did the Hall of Fame game and the Browns were playing there, and talked about that for a moment, which was really the last time I got to see Jim and talk to him for a little bit. And then I opened up the computer and said, who do the Browns play again tomorrow? Because, you're doing your game and you look at the schedule during the week and you got up and who's playing? And you go, oh, okay. Okay. And then honestly, and this is just being super candid, because Andrew is one of my friends. He's part of our Syracuse Mafia. He's one of my favorite people in this business. I was like, man, Andrew's going to have, and you too, Nathan, but especially thinking Andrew, because our friendship is going to have like one of those days that you just hope that you hit the right note and the right tone and you do the job the right way. And you guys did. I popped in and listened to a little of y'all on the NFL app during my day, and then couldn't wait to hear the call at the end of the game when I watched that last play out. For all of us, this is our business, our industry, our little world, and anybody's in that little world, you kind of care about them in a different way. And I was so glad to hear how you all handled the excitement of the play, beating the big team on the block in the division here in Baltimore, along with Pittsburgh, of course. But also just to hear the emotion of it and to see it then as I saw the video this morning. It was like all those thoughts I had on Saturday and just watching them play out on Sunday. I'm like, that every once in a while, no matter what your depths of your religious beliefs are, from non-existent to very spiritual, sometimes you go, well, that just doesn't happen by accident. And that just kind of felt like one of those days. And you guys handled it with extraordinary class, care, passion, and connected, which is what Jim always did in his broadcast every time I got to listen to him.
Yeah, Mike, that's the thing, the word connected that you use there. And you're a Detroit guy, and in this part of the country, the winters sometimes start early. The winds maybe aren't as plentiful as we would like, but the warm blanket is the voice sometimes of the man who's the voice of your team. And there's a relationship in this part of the country with our sports teams that I think is a little different than everywhere else because it's needed. And I think when you think of the importance of it, that it just is a little bit different. And for a guy who's a Boston native to be so specifically Cleveland and represent this fan base and this team, that part of it hits a little different too, does it not? Yes,
it's a great observation, and it's well said. Hey, I'm a New York guy. I grew up in New York. I grew up a Mets and Jets fan as a kid. I've outgrown that, thankfully. I grew up a Mets and Jets fan, went to Syracuse. I've lived in Michigan half my life, and I'm associated with Michigan far more than I am New York. And I didn't even do local sports or a local team here. I just live here. I think all of us who live in the Midwest live in flyover country. Like, are you going to talk about the Jets and the Cowboys one more time on Get Up or the other shows or Stephen A. Smith show? And and look, it's a ratings deal. The Fox shows in the morning do it too. I mean, I'm done. There are other teams in the league. There are other cities in the league. How many people talked about what the Guardians were doing this year during the year? Very few. And then they get in the playoff series with the Yankees. Oh my gosh, this team is really good. This that way from the start of the year. Just because of all of us living here in flyover country, you don't get the publicity. But the people who are here get the people who care. And that brings us back to Jim and that connective point. And it goes beyond the Browns games for me. Traveling around the country and having a lot of people who do this for a living, local sports on the television newscast becomes a little bit of an accessory in the bigger markets. not in cities like Cleveland, cities like Detroit, in the market that I live in, not in Chicago. People want that as part of their news. And we see it on Sunday Night Football. You go to a town for a primetime game, it's the top story in the newscast for 2 or 3 days, right? People are excited about the game. The sports department has 2 or 3 people covering the Browns and the Guardians is a must, and the Cavs when they're playing well, right? There's that connection that's different. I think that cemented Jim's connection because not only was he with Doug for so many years in the booth, for those 16 Sundays, so many of them disappointing with the Browns, but he was also with you every night, dinner, 11 o'clock news, that presence, doing some news as well during his time. Like that local connection, you become somebody who's connected with everybody in the city.
Yep.
And they know you because they see you around, they see you at the community events, they see what your connection is, and you can't fake that. That's not a guy who's come in off a tomato truck from some other city and is doing his 3 years and moving on. He put down roots because he left a part of him here along the way. And that, to me, just really galvanized Jim's connection to Cleveland because he wasn't just the voice of the Browns. He was the dean of the TV sports departments in town. And, with big sports, hey, let me go see what Jim has to say about this tonight, right? And just that doesn't happen in a lot of cities. And so to me, that cemented the connection even more. And the right guy to do it, too, to be through and through Cleveland, even though your birth certificate may say some other part of the country.
Mike, we thank you so much for your time and you and Chris and everybody at NBC for what you guys did last night and your kind words and giving us some of your time today. Thanks, pal.
Least we could do. Thoughts to all of you all, and bravo for you guys just doing it absolutely pitch perfect last week, and many more wins to come, hopefully for Cleveland. That was fun to watch. We are dying to get back there for a Sunday night game. I know we're on the schedule at the end of the year. That doesn't look like a game that was going to hold up, but who knows? Strange things happen, so keep it rolling. And I appreciate you reaching out to me to come on today. It's an honor to share the thoughts of one of the truly, truly great people to do this. So you all take care, and
thank you,
our
Mike.
prayers and thoughts with you all.
Thanks, Mike.
That was beautiful.